Hello everyone.
So just to give some context, that is of course NIO CEO with the CEO of Media, which is the biggest home appliance maker here in China, from fridges to air conditionings to washing units, all sorts of stuff. They make it and they're the biggest maker here in China. And they just did a test drive with the ET9, and the CEO of Media decided to buy the car, of course, because it's a very good car. And also, if you guys didn't know, they actually signed a partnership a while back, and from that partnership came the birth of the Envo fridge, all right? Envo's fridge, which is the massive fridge in the back of the trunk, which is the biggest in any car and the best in any car. And that came out of their partnership. And of course, Media being such a big company and it's been around for many, many years. So NIO CEO kind of wanted some advice about how to face the competitiveness of the EV market, like how they faced competitiveness in the home appliance market. And this is a very interesting advice that he got. So have a listen.
Hello everyone. I'm Lee Bin from Home Appliances. Here's my good friend Boj, Media's chairman and CEO. He just test drove our ET9 as Chief Experience Officer. Ready to place an order? Yes. Completely impressed by ET9, totally blown away by ET9. I've brought Boj along today. I have a few questions to ask. I think Media, from a business perspective, has always been a role model for us. You're just celebrating your 10th anniversary. Compared to Media, you're still a very young company. In terms of execution and innovation, what advice can you give me? Today we're talking about competition, right? How many rounds has the appliance industry been through? The competition has reached a level where I'd say 6 or 7, maybe 7 or 8 rounds. So in this competitive process, we keep improving our competitiveness, including the execution you mentioned earlier. Companies ultimately rely on execution, on operational efficiency, and finally on innovation and such things. I think competition is the best method. Competition is indeed the best. We have internal competition too, between different products and business units. Competition between different sectors, internal competition within departments, and then there's external competition. We've competed with so many brands round after round of major business. The key is your operational efficiency. It's definitely worth learning from. I mentioned competition and change. The auto industry is also changing now, but appliances have changed 6 or 7 times. How should we view this change? How should we approach it? We have an internal slogan now: actively participate in internal competition, but dare to break free from it. How to break free? Well, first, actively join the competition. We compare costs, prices, and efficiency. Compare products with everyone. Daring to break free means relying on product and tech innovation. Competition ultimately depends on innovation. I strongly agree with this. Like our ET9, the tech flagship, you have many new technologies. It's hard to stay ahead now, but no matter what, you must resolutely invest in tech. Yes, our annual R&D investment is over 10 billion. The ratio is very high. There's no end to this, really. Actively join the competition. Dare to break free from it. Simply put, it's breaking through limits. Otherwise, you're just competing at the bottom. That's how it is. That's very vivid. Don't compete at the bottom. Always aim to break through limits. That's quite a vivid description. I'm particularly excited today. Boj, as our first experience officer, has given us many suggestions. We're very grateful for everyone's support. Let's power up together. Thank you, Binge.
So I think that was absolutely fantastic advice, and I think it's a very important message for new investors, and it shows that it is very important to actively compete in the competitiveness of this entire industry, and also to invest in the future and continuously innovate. Okay, that's the key point: continuously innovate. And what you're seeing, right? A lot of people talk about NIO's massive losses, and they're like, "Oh my God, NIO's losing so much money." But what they're not saying is that most of those losses come from R&D. NIO's investing into the future of their products to make their products better and stay ahead and be number one, be the top of the game. And what happens if you don't? What happens if you sort of, what should I say, settle? You just say, "Oh, all right, well, I think we're already the best. We're not going to keep investing." Well, of course, you get wiped out, right? Like all those other guys, Weltmeister, they used to be very nice, but then they didn't really invest in their future. Their products got stale. Their cars, couldn't compete against the likes of NIO. They got wiped out. Recently, yesterday, I talked about Jiyue. HICAN, which used to be called GAC NIO, which is a joint venture from NIO and JAC. You know, they just got the news today that they're disbanding their Shanghai headquarters, right? They're going through trouble. They're not going to survive, most likely not. So companies that can't keep continuously innovate and maintain its competitive net edge will eventually get wiped out. So to do that, of course, you have to invest in the future, right? Let those other players die out, right? We're seeing so many other players die out, right? And slowly and surely only a few will be left. NIO is definitely going to be one of them. In yesterday's video, when I published it, some people were saying NIO is next. NIO is not next, all right, guys? You got to understand something. NIO will not go bankrupt. Even if it came to that point where NIO's short on cash, remember, even the government is chasing NIO down to invest in NIO. Let that sink in, all right? It's not NIO, hey, we want some money, I'm going to ask the government for money. The government's like, no, we want to invest in you. Come, don't go anywhere, let me invest in you. That's exactly what happened back a few months ago. So the government's, actively wanting to invest in NIO. And NIO's patents, the infrastructure they have, having the most number of chargers out of any electric vehicle maker. Right? They have the most number of chargers, and that's not including swap stations. If you count in swap stations, they're miles and miles ahead of everybody else. And that infrastructure, you're telling me that's not worth something? That's worth a lot of money, guys. So even if it comes to that point where they're kind of in trouble, someone will be willing to swoop in and take this over, or inject more cash, which we've seen the Chinese government is really willing to do. So it's never going to come to the point where NIO is going to be irrelevant, because NIO is continuously doing R&D to make sure that they're ahead and they're at the top of the game, basically, and that their stuff is valuable. They're never going to be obsolete. A lot of those other guys, they're going to be obsolete down the line, right? Because they don't have their own core technology. Their technology could be easily replicated by anybody else. A comfortable seat, a fridge inside the car, and a generator inside the car, those are easily replicated. And if somebody does it better and cheaper than you, you could face serious danger. Whereas with NIO, what we've seen is that they're making their own chip, they are making their own software, right? And then of course they have battery swap on top of that, right? And the vastness of the ecosystem, how many swap stations you have, right? That's the whole moat of battery swap. And then of course you have great service and also great reputation to keep them ahead, right? And as more and more competitors get wiped out, you're going to see that NIO is going to be the ultimate benefactor, right? They got less and less choices. NIO is one of the few strong ones that will remain, okay? So when you're talking about the advice that he's getting, of course, go head into competition, embrace the competition, face it, make sure your products are way better than the other guys. Just face the competition, continuously innovate, right? Everybody's a follower if you keep on innovating. So that's going to be very, very nice. So when you look at the losses, really look at that as a insurance policy for the company's future, okay? So that's how you should really approach these losses. So NIO will never go bankrupt, in my personal opinion, all right? As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.